It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation to be a host. Shall we jump into the agenda, please, of today? So this is what we plan for our today's session. We have 4 great, beautiful ladies, and we will be talking about female founder roundtable. What are the challenges about being an entrepreneur, female entrepreneur? And I will introduce the agenda. Thank you. So first, let me introduce our speakers. I will introduce Michelle Peters. She's the supply chain geek. She loves to be called like that. Yep. She comes from different industries, from different companies, and I will appreciate if she introduces herself. Michelle.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Michelle. I have a long experience in manufacturing and supply chain, both in consumer good products, industrial products, chemicals, and electronics. And I just left corporate in December after a long career in different companies to start my own business. So that's, we're focused, the name of the company is Suplino, and we're focused on supply chain services and connecting small businesses to supply chain experts across the different options of supply chain. And I was also part of the cohort, they call it, the FI class that just ended in Frankfurt, and was part of that accelerator program, which really helped me launch my business. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks for joining, Michelle. Then we have Corinna Haas. She's a serial entrepreneur with several years of experience, especially in HR. She's the co-founder of Inga GmbH. Her company helps employers and employees, especially she makes easier the life of employers. She will tell us about a little bit about it. Corinna.
Yeah, thank you. I've just learned that Michelle is also like in supply chain. That is actually one of the areas where we as Inga focus on. So I'm the founder and also CEO of Inga. We use social media to find talent, specifically blue collar talent, and then combine it with a chatbot technology to make it easier for small and medium-sized companies mainly to find their talents. Before that, I was self-employed for 2 years with CO3 recruiting, and I was helping mainly startups to build up HR architecture because I wanted to improve the world of recruiting and HR out there, telling the young startups how important people are and how to structure them more or less. And I dared to do so because I learned a lot during 11 years of corporate work at a big American investment bank here in Frankfurt, where I had the pleasure to find white-collar workers, finance students of the universities in Germany and Austria and Switzerland.
Great, awesome. Welcome, Corinna. Dr. Anabel Ternes is an entrepreneur, social founder, author, speaker, and scientist. She's an expert in future trends focused on work 4.0 and sustainability, and digitalization, of course. She's the CEO of Get Your Wings and Guiding for Future and Deutsche Initiative Gesunde Digitalisierung. Let us hear from Dr. Anabel Ternes. Please, Anabel, welcome.
I'm very pleased to speak today and be part of the panel here, especially because of my small accident I had yesterday, where I was not sure how far it goes. Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur with a track record in working for international companies. I started my career in international lifestyle companies with a focus on business development, on accessories and interior products. Like Samsonite, for example. And besides this job, I already started founding and teaching. So it's a long history with my CV that I combined both working in companies, but also working as an entrepreneur, and and giving further knowledge or competences I've learned to others. I have a double degree in business administration and German history of arts, psychology, and education. And I worked always very international. Currently, I'm based in Berlin, but I'm from Rhineland, and I have here running the Get Your Wings, the social organization where we bring digitalization to mostly young adults in schools and show them how to look after themselves, get a strong personality, learn besides how to code, and learn social competences to design their and the future of others. With Guiding for Futures, we provide e-learning models to mid-sized companies, and with a German initiative for healthy digitization, we reach as well mid-sized companies where we provide certifications and a status quo to give them the opportunity to prepare themselves for the future, especially after Corona, which showed many the challengers where they are.
Thank you, Anabel, and welcome. Last but not least, we have Svenja Bickert-Appleby. Is this correct?
Could be.
Well, you are the expert.
Okay.
You are the expert in design thinking, fashion, and many aspects of it. You have worked in an international service design as a consultant, and you are the co-founder of the startup Solo-Stücke. Right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about it, and that you won the Social and Sustainable Fashion Entrepreneurship Award in 2017. Great.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm an innovation consultant, designer, and entrepreneur. I'm self-employed for the last 10 years, so right out of my studies. And I do run at the moment a startup in Wiesbaden called Solo-Stücke. It's a circular fashion startup. We remanufacture basically secondhand clothes into new streetwear and corporate wear according to the circular economy. So I'm very much engaged in that. And Solo-Stücke is actually a project kind of by New Order Design, which is my innovation consultancy, also based in Wiesbaden. And we focus on sustainable and social projects, advising in the private and public sector. Yeah, that's what I do.
Welcome, all the four of you, and thanks for joining. So we will start our discussion panel with 3 topics. I will present each topic, and each of you have like around 3-4 minutes to answer it and to talk about your own experience. It's very important that you bring your personal experience on it, and the audience can at the same time ask questions in the chat, and then Eugenio will be kindly send us the questions at the end of it, right? So let us start with the first discussion topic, which is regarding the challenges of female entrepreneurs. It seems that one of the things we see is a lower percentage of female entrepreneurs in Europe, right? And with regards, well, not only in Europe, and with regards to founding, historically, founding levels for female founders has been very poor. Aside from founding, what particular difficulties do you think female founders experience in our ecosystem? So let us start perhaps with Anabel.
Pleasure. I think it's different things which come together, which bring some good difficulties or challenges to this point. I think first it's often the fact that female founders are often more into getting things done and bring things forward than in concentrating on marketing and a lot of shout out and PR. So from my experience, is that what I just mentioned, and what is a number of statistics very true, where I often see male founders which are telling you a lot of things about their startup which is still not existing. Where women often say never would do something like that, and they at first want to prepare something really nicely and bring it to the run, and then they were to talk about that. Then I think it's also that women often feel more responsibility, and if they're mothers, then of course they could say the man has to take the same responsibility about the child, but often they don't do like that. Often they feel more responsible and take over the duties. And this is a current topic on social media. A lot of people are discussing this. And it's often, often the fault you talk about that is not a fault of one person, it's a fault of the both of them. And I think often the female founders think they have to manage all of that. And and have to, I think, often have to ask more for help or ask others to take over responsibilities from. I think it's often that this old boys network is working very well, while there's no old women network. And I know it often from the past that often women in very high positions are supporting even men often more than women. And I think we really need to strengthen and deepen a culture where women supporting other women in a way which is not like against men, but a way where it's together with men. I think this culture has to be put more into place and have more put into life.
Thank you, Anabel. Do you want to add something else?
Oh, I could add a lot of stories about that.
Feel free. Michelle, you are just newly founder, and you find yourself in this new world of entrepreneurship and the startups. So perhaps your challenges are different. What do you think?
I mean, I agree with Anabel when she said women are more cautious than men, and we like to over prepare. We prepare more, for sure. I think that's true in entrepreneurship and in other things. I saw it in corporate also. And I think for me, what I found as a female founder was I was very intimidated by the world of entrepreneurship before I got into it. Coming from corporate, it seemed very like young, male, hyper competitive. You had to work 73 hours a day. You had to be up all night programming. There was a lot of this messaging that if you can't give 127% to your business, then you're a complete loser and you shouldn't even bother to start. And yet what I found when I got into it, and in this program, the FI program, the accelerator, was mostly men, right? I mean, I'm an electrical engineer. In school, it was mostly men. In corporate, it was mostly men. In FI, it's mostly men. And yet the men were super supportive of the women. And I was pleasantly surprised how non-competitive they were, and how open they were, and how vulnerable they were about problems of their own that they shared. And so I think that there's a perception gap for women that we have to overcome, because we are so kind of cautious about things. We're not as bullish as the guys are. And at the same time, I think entrepreneurship itself is packaged in a way that's extremely intimidating to us. And the reality is much less intimidating, is what I found anyway.
Thanks, Michelle. What about you, Svenja? What is your experience regarding challenges in your ecosystem, in your environment?
So I think I do agree a lot with what has been said before. the thing that I maybe experienced a little bit different was I was with quite young, 25. I did my first business plan challenge during my studies, and it's true. I also was surrounded by men, was the only woman pitching and working on it. But once I got actually to London in 2011, I really experienced a different kind of business and startup culture. It was much easier, even as a student, to kind of get contacts, get actually work projects just by having a chat in a coffee place. And what I found is so different maybe to the culture here in Germany is that very much older, more experienced business people wanted to work with me and gave me really great challenges. And I find it quite difficult here in Germany often to be seen and kind of taken very seriously as a female founder. And a lot of the networks here in Germany are also male dominated, so it's hard to get in. I actually just joined one network, but I needed a promotion by a man to actually get in because my application didn't work without that. On the other hand, that might be also sometimes an advantage because I got on a different network because they had so little women. So I was asked. So it's kind of both of it. And I guess in Corona times, I need to mention that, yeah, kind of integrating family and business is quite a challenge for a lot of women. And basically having like 1 or 2 kids at home is really makes it nearly impossible to work. So you're really reliant on kind of social structures like kitas and schools to be able to work. And one thing I experienced is I started with Solostücke actually producing kids fashion because it's much easier to manufacture out of secondhand clothes, much smaller clothes. And the feedback that I got quite often was like, yeah, you're doing this because you find kids cute or you have kids yourself maybe, but it was just a business decision for me to do that because I thought it was a great market and it was logical to kind of produce much smaller clothes. So I don't think men do get something like that. So they probably take me in that sense much more serious, and it is suggests they kind of assume that they're doing something out of a business reason and not because of kind of emotional reasons.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you, Svenja, for sharing. What about you, Corinna? You mentioned before that it's a challenging time right now for HR and recruiters and for your industry. Perhaps you can talk challenges before Corona, also as a female founder. What is your opinion about it in your industry?
I have to admit, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but being a female founder has absolutely fantastic advantages because of course being selected as a panel speaker, being put on being asked for interviews and stuff like that, it actually helps to be a female founder. So I have to say that from my perspective, I have never kind of seen any kind of outside pressure or prejudices. So I'm quite positive about that. In terms of, there is a difference between male behavior and female behavior, which I've already experienced back in the investment banking world, where I was a campus recruiter. So I hired the M&A bankers, and what I've seen or learned there, overall also in recruiting, which I can put also on like female founders, is that, for example, for a job description, if there are like 10 bullets that the employer normally kind of wants you to bring to the table, if a female applicant does not meet one of the 10 criteria but checks 9 boxes, she's uncertain if she should apply. Okay. If a male kind of ticks 5 boxes, he said, I'm the perfect candidate, that job is mine. And of course, that's a little bit kind of just like a rule. It's not a rule, but you know what I mean. It's a little bit of a joke. But that is something that I've seen, that of course, and I'm repeating what my other speakers have said before, is that we tend to be more cautious, and that is something that I personally have also seen in my complete work life. I've never asked for a raise. I did not drop out of the corporate world because I wanted to become a consultant, nor did I want to found. It was all kind of going by the flow, and actually external people encouraged me to do that because they told me, you're so good and you have such a passion about people and talent and recruiting, and you are such an accurate worker, and your quality is so perfect and you're so neat, you need to do something about that. And my advantage was actually that I founded together with a male founder, with Kim. And he couldn't be more opposite of my style. And that's not just a gender thing. I'm quite sure that if you find like 2 male founders, they can be super opposite, or 2 female founders can be super opposite, and that helps. Then also to kind of find what you're good at. And in terms of investments and fundings, I am more the grounded person, and I normally bring kind of seriousness to the table with investors, and Kim brings the vision. He is like the outgoing person, and like what Inga can do in 10 years, and we will change the world. And he is doing the storytelling superbly. And that is what mainly male investors want to know. They want to be taken along. And so that is something where I then said, okay, everyone it's at its best. And so Kim is better in actually selling the story. And then in the end, I'm the one closing the deal because they are putting the money in the CEO and kind of trusts me then because I'm the grounded one. And so that combination pays out quite well.
Oh, great. And for recruitment particularly, it's just COVID, what you mentioned right now. It's not that challenging because of the industry, or because being a female in recruitment or in HR is just it's an
advantage because most recruiters and most people in HR actually are female, because also recruiting and HR business partners is kind of a people's business. And I don't know if that's a prejudice as well, but females in average are kind of very well, like kind of on a personal level with other people. They have a very good gut feeling about making hiring decisions, and so it's more like my peer group actually. And then surprisingly, of course, like the head of HR often are males. Like in every other sector, that like if it's becoming more professional, then the decision making and the taking the glory, then the men come back in. But they rely on the power and the expertise of the female colleagues.
Thank you,
That's
Corinna.
quite interesting. Yeah, sorry.
No,
can I just add something? I think it's quite interesting. I did co-found a company before with 2 male founders, and just the dynamics are often quite really interesting. When a client wants to talk with one of the founders, they often tend to talk to the male ones, you know, and to the kind of the oldest one in the room, expecting kind of the most experience and kind of the one who makes the decisions. So that was really interesting to kind of experience in the company I had before. And I'm actually really happy now being on my own, and kind of there's no question who to talk to.
Yeah. Of course. Oh, interesting. Anybody? One more comment? Nothing to add? Shall we jump into the second topic? Are you ready? Great. So the second topic is regarding the advantages. We talked already about some advantages of the female management style, and in particular industries. Each of us, each of you have their own leadership style and career styles, and probably different from those of your male colleagues. You mentioned something, Michelle, in the corporate world. Sometimes these positions of diversity are very valuable and an advantage. What advantage in building a business have you seen as a female founder, and in every stage of your business, in the beginning, the end, customer relationship management, founding, and so on? And this time, Michelle starts, please.
Okay, so I'm a brand new founder, but I would say from my experience being right at the very early stage, Again, I'm going to go back to this kind of culture of the unicorn and this kind of the Silicon Valley male description of what a startup should be. It's very competitive and very bold. And what I see from women is more, women seem to be more willing to be vulnerable publicly to each other about their experience in starting up. So I'm part of a bunch of networks and they're very supportive. People are not worried about looking super successful or looking like bazillionaires or millionaires. And I am in all these networks as a new founder because, you know, you try to get all these resources, so you join a bunch. And the discussions of the women-only founder groups versus the discussions in the mixed groups, the tone is always really different. And that's amazing to me. And I think women bring, I think this is an advantage that women have, that we're willing to kind of just state that we're, you know, we don't know what we're doing, we need some help, right? Maybe sometimes we overstate that and it's not really, we're not as weak as we present ourselves. But I think the advantage is by sharing that and being less intimidating to others and being more open, we help everybody around us, including men, right?
One advantage is being supportive. An advantage is being supportive. One advantage that you found is the support.
I think it's the support and the willingness to show flaws, right? And not always try to look perfect, right? So there are people that are supportive of you, but they're going to tell you they're always doing great. Their company is awesome. Everything is fine. They're going to be bazillionaires, right? They never let you in a bit to see what they're, you know, what their struggles are. And I think as a whole, I see women much more willing to kind of open that door and say, everything isn't perfect. Here's what I'm struggling with. How can I help you? How can you help me? And that for me is really nice.
Related to vulnerability, perhaps, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Vulnerable. Yeah. Great. Agree. Thank you, Michelle. Svenja, can you please share your opinion?
Yeah, I think one thing I mentioned before is, as a female founder, getting into networks is sometimes quite easy, or getting invited in, it is really nice. And I think once you're in those networks, you get a lot of support also from your male peers. So I have to say, I never, or the other way around, like I had a lot of support from men with my business and in consulting and everything. So I never really had bad experiences in that sense. So I think that's an advantage. And I think in my case, I do see, maybe it's a coincidence that I have a female team in New Order Design, and maybe it does attract other women to work with me as a female entrepreneur and to kind of learn from me. So that's an advantage, to get those great people. Yeah.
Thank you, Svenja. Corinna.
I was just thinking that I know a lot of female founders actually in Frankfurt, but most of them are in the social entrepreneur business. So I also help with the Social Impact Lab as a mentor. And I would say, as a kind of rule of thumb, I don't know, 70% of the founders in the Social Impact Lab are females. And that also kind of loops them back. I was thinking about like the funding topic, is that of course institutional VCs and also business angels, they tend to invest in money makers. And often a social focused startup has a little bit of a problem with like the business model. How do I earn money with it? And of course, like the whole funding topic is still a kind of investment, because like with like the cheap money out there, you are not able to get like a return on your investment on like other stuff. So that is why people are taking so high risks in investing in startups. But then the startup needs to have like a scalable business model and someone to pay for it. And that then also, I think, brings us back then to like back to the male founders, because I also think that there are kind of two different founder groups out there. There are often, let's say, younger male founders who found for the purpose of exit, like for the purpose of having success, like so the whole rocket internet world, where you rather copy something successful to earn a lot of money and then push someone out of the market or being taken over. So more the short-term view, and then there are more the founders that see a problem out there and there is no solution yet, be it kind of a moneymaker solution or like a social solution. And those overall, I think, struggle more in getting funding than the exit-oriented startups. But that might be a prejudice. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
So again, the advantages you see it in the roles, right?
Say it again.
Yeah, just to summarize it a little bit, your ideas. You see a big advantage in the female management style on the roles of the.
I actually have not answered the original question.
So I wanted to compile. I wanted to exchange your ideas and to summarize it for you.
Yeah. Because I don't know if there is a real female leadership theme. Or if it's like general, like an individual leadership theme. But I think I have to agree with what Svenja and Michelle said, that that communication between female founders or women overall is different probably than between males. Networks is something that I think we will be talking about as well, but like doing the right network work is like super important for females, and that can be a little bit more business oriented. And other than that, I think that my kind of leadership style, how would I describe that? And I don't know if that is a female style or if it's just a Corinna style. I rather, so we are a very transparent company. Yeah, so we have a team of 12. 12 always, like, startup sounds super cool, but we only have a few of them on a payroll. Then of course there are like the mini jobbers and the meaty jobbers and the freelancers, but overall, of course, we're a team of 12. And we do our weeklies and our retros. We knew Zoom even before Corona, and we did like the whole meetings there. And I often let the people talk and kind of soak up the information. And then I kind of wrap my mind around it. And then I take the decision often in the end. Often it kind of builds up, and then I sometimes also say, guys, no, yeah, I want it like this because. But it was because I gathered all the information from everyone, and every idea is valuable. And I want to have kind of a team where everyone dares to speak up, either about management style or where the product is going, or I don't know, like a co-worker, stuff like that. And so maybe this openness and this transparency is something that females might make more often than males, but someone needs to take the decision in the end. And sometimes decisions are quicker, are made quicker if someone just stops the discussion and decides. So I don't know which is more beneficial.
Thanks for sharing, Corinna. And I'm sure Anabel will also bring a lot of value, sharing your experience regarding the female style. I mean, which advantages do you see in your environment, Anabel?
I don't see a typical female leadership style. I saw so many different leadership styles, male and female, and I can't say that I saw a really typical female style. I saw men and women having a very rough style and an old style, a new style. So I saw everything, and also sometimes mixed. So I can't say that there's a typical female or male style I've seen. But what I could see is that what I think it was Corinna who mentioned that with the social startups, that this is something special. It might be also something which is more related. Might be something which is more related to the kind of entrepreneurship than to being a man or a woman. Do you want to say hello?
Yeah.
Say hello. Hello. Yeah. Yes, like hello. No. Anabel's turn now. You can. Later, there's Nicola's turn. Yeah. Oh, he's not so happy about that. That is not his turn now. But what I really prefer is having mixed style leadership. So in my current entrepreneurships, which are two, I have in both a mixed leadership. So in both we are two CEOs, both male and female, and that works very, very well. I have often the feeling that I have often the feeling that it gives the man the idea or the opportunity that he can act both in a kind of typical female too, and gives me also more the openness to act more male too, if we want to use words like that. I mean, I like, as Corinna said, I like to wrap up things. I like to move things through. I like to speed up things to bring it to a final decision. And I feel very good in this mixed roles because so thank you. Sorry. So I like really this. I like this mixed roles, and that you are not so sticking also in your typical gender role, but also that you can move out. And sometimes I feel that I'm more the person who loves this agile working, where I don't stick on my role as being the top or staying on something I said, but being flexible, saying, okay, if that what you're saying is better, then we go for that. It's not something I take personally. I often have the feeling that this is more that what we have in favor as a women, that we are not sticking on something, hiding behind that, or thinking that's something we say is that what we are, but can differentiate between, and that sometimes I think we're also the better leaders. And yeah, if we want to move something forward, we move something forward, and we don't need a rough tone. We don't need to do this teaming. We can really do it in a very emotional, soft, with a soft tone. We don't need to have this bossy tone. But saying this, I already think that this is not something which I can generalize. I have so many male colleagues or male friends in the startup area, which are also not typical male as we think. And yeah, so I think there's a kind of boys gang and the entrepreneurship scene, which is behaving like, oh, I want to make 2 million of money, and then I want to sell my startup, and then I want to drink cocktails and drive a Ferrari. And I think this is something I don't see in the female startup area at all. But besides this, I think we have so different types, so different leader types I see, not only in social, non-social entrepreneurship, which is good, I think. But I think the perception, the external perception can learn from that, what is internally happen, and can maybe show also a bit more of differentiation, or can show how different we are as women in leading groups. And sometimes I hear from outside that friends are saying, oh, if you meet your female founders, isn't it a kind of coffee drinking and talking about nails? I say, okay, what you're talking about. And then then it's often kind of kidding, but often in a kind of kidding there's a little bit of truth behind what they think about you. So no, I think it's I think we can lead as good as the men do, and we lead as different as the men do, and we are so different types. I think it's maybe sometimes really the external view on that, how we do it, and that we maybe sometimes do it more quieter than the men do, where we should really talk more about this, how we do and how we can do, and yeah, and that we are as different as they are.
Thank you very much, Anabel, for sharing. And is your daughter or son?
Yes, my son.
Son, he wanted to say something. He wanted to bring
he wanted to say
the mail.
at least hello and greet everybody.
Exactly.
I would like to add something about it. Do you still remember that one video conference back like 2 years from like this male person sitting in the office, and then like the small kid came in and he did not acknowledge the kid, but kind of shoved him or her away. And now the reaction of Anabel is like very contrary to that. And I think this also shows that that sometimes men are more focused on one thing, on one goal. I don't know if that's better. And females, I think the way we have to look everywhere. And I think we see more and we react to more. Okay. And in terms of doing our nails, when the female founders are together, it's the same thing. Like raising a child at home, you do have your spa day at home, right? There is no stress at all when you raise your kid. You just sit around and drink coffee all day anyways. So what's the harm?
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's also a discussion in the past. I heard about this about West Wing, where the co-founder of West Wing, where she said, "Oh, I dress up myself as I want to dress up myself, and I don't care. And if I like to color my nails, and I color my nails. And if the people think that I have nothing in my head because I'm coloring my nails, okay, that's not my problem. That's their problem." And
yeah, that's true. Very true. So finally, we will move to topic number 3. What networks, support structures, or mentors do you see as more valuable for you? There are a lot of organizations, locally, regionally, here in Germany and abroad, beyond to talk empowerment. What would you advise? Which kind of networks and structures to support women entrepreneurs? So, Svenja, please share your thoughts.
So networks and structures. I have to start actually with partners. So I think partners are most important if you want to have a career, if you want to be an entrepreneur. So I would say also your personal partner at home when you have kids, or also without kids, is really essential. But especially when you have kids. So mine has at the moment 2 kids and like one baby to keep calm while I'm on the webinar. And then partners too, when you partner with other people to found a company, super, super, super important to watch out who you partner with and make sure that you're on the similar line. And then as a structure, what was really helpful for me was also co-working spaces, like places where you can actually meet other partners. So I met my partners in Heimathafen in Wiesbaden, which is really quite the startup spot here in Wiesbaden. So that was super helpful to just get to know other people, especially because I came from London and I didn't know anyone or anything in Wiesbaden. And my partners were already located in Wiesbaden for 10 years, so they had a great network, and it really helped us also to start up the company, which was quite essential and super helpful. And then I would say it's not really structures, but what is essential and super helpful is that you have great clients over the years that recommend you, that support you, that come back to you to work with you. And beside that, I do have a lot of expert groups that I go to if I wanted to speak about a certain topic like circular economy or service design. So that's very helpful if I kind of want to have more kind of expert input. And then I have like 3 or 4 people, like other entrepreneurs, male and female, that I ask if I really have like business questions that I need to figure out. And then I know who to ask and who to have lunch with to figure that out and get help from. Yeah.
Thank you, Svenja. I hope our audience, they are taking notes or they can contact you if they have questions or comments. Corinna.
So first of all, congratulations to having found Heimathafen, because I lived in Mainz for 15 years, and I was hardly ever allowed to go to Wiesbaden, but I also went to Heimathafen because they also have like, what's the Gründer format that they have? Like we used to have. Yeah,
Gründerfrühstück, Donnerstag.
Yeah. So they also have like a lot of like, so a very good tip in terms of like the whole co-working things. And I think especially like in the Rhein-Main area, there are a lot of meeting opportunities, and not just female focused, because that is something which I heavily stress. Do not just surround you with females, because that is a bubble. The reality out there is that you will need to work together with males, and that has also a lot of advantages. Like the mix is like the important thing out of my perspective, and so like the more meetups or events you visit, the better. Specifically in the Rhein-Main area, I of course can recommend Women Who Inspire Rhein-Main. Is super active and like a good place to meet females on various levels. And what I like also about them is that they connect you as a participant also with the Frankfurt business world out there, meaning meeting, for example, great female lawyers who support the startup ecosystem and tell about their experience. But then on the other side, you might be able to then, for example, have access to a lawyer who helps you with your funding. Yeah, so there is like a lot of ecosystem going on in Frankfurt. And from my perspective, I think the correct way of networking is super important, like your individual network, which you have to work for on a long-term basis. And for me, it's not just meeting specifically females, but to bring it more on a business networking level, meaning kind of being open about, I have this to offer and I need this. And just sharing this information might lead directly to like a new connection, to a new deal, or to a new introduction. And of course, like it's vice versa. So you need to ask, what is it what you offer and what do you need? So it's like a give and take situation. And I think that is something where male or where men, they have perfected that kind of networking, like the whole golf thing, the whole men cigarette smoking club thing is all about who can help me progress somewhere. So it's always very opportunistic, but because it's openly opportunistic, in the long run, you always gain, you give and you gain. So and that is something where I have the feeling that often with female networks, it is more about like sharing what is not working that well, and I don't know if you know about law of attraction or The Secret or whatever. If you talk about like failure, you kind of attract failure. And so maybe, and that is what I was thinking in Michelle's first answer, was that that because so many men just talk positively about everything, even though in the background it looks like crap and it's not working, maybe that is why they are successful, because they pretend and they feel like they are like the superstar, and so the universe gives them all the success.
Thank you, Corinna. Anabel, what do you think? What do you want to share your secret, your special sauce, networks, structures, which kind of groups to approach when you are a female founder or a founder? What would you advise?
I think, I mean, living in Berlin, it gives me, it gave me before Corona, a lot of situations where I could go, could network, and whereas often it has been often the case more to think about where I should go and how long I should stay there than where I could go, because there were often 3 or 4 interesting events on one evening where I could go and meet people. And there it's of course interesting or important to choose where you should go and how long you should stay and what makes sense. And I think it's very important that before you go there, you make up your mind what you want to reach out there. And I mean, many people go there, just talk with somebody. I think it's important that you you know what you can give and what you want to get, and that you don't go with overloaded expectations, that you need to get that you need to leave with a lead, for example, or that you need to leave with a very good contact. I mean, sometimes networking is not often a give and get thing, which is working straight ahead. I mean, my learnings is that sometimes I had a very nice meeting with somebody, and he brought me to somebody else, and through this person, I learned somebody, get to know somebody where I could make a really good contact, found a really good friend or advisor or mentor or whatever. So it's often the surprises what brings you to a good network or widen your network. I think it's important that you first think what you can give than what you get out there, and that you often also want to go alone, because I know many women only go in groups, like 3 women work on a conference and then they chat with each other. And so it's not an atmosphere where you go and meet new people. No? It's much better when you go alone and try to add yourself to a group and be frank and be brave enough to ask a question or introduce yourself. It's often the easy things which make sense. I don't have really good experiences with going into special business clubs or being a member of that. I always said I have no time to doing that, to go there on a regular basis, but until now I didn't need it, or I haven't seen the need to doing that. I find it much more interesting to meet new people and go extra into networks or conference where I maybe don't know anybody, to enter new ideas, get new fresh insights on something. This is often something which is much better. And I'm a person who likes to engage in new things and who sometimes needs also a distance to get fresh ideas. And it's often not good to always stay in the same circle. So, and staying in the same circle, I prefer more the dinner with 12 people or 15 people than the conference with 2,000 people. I mean, it seems to be so fancy taking a social media picture, but I'm really over it. It's so loud often. The people don't have time because they feel in a rush that that the meeting you is not the most important. Meeting somebody else can maybe be even more important. So they're in a rush the whole time, and in the end they say, oh, it was really exhausting. It really made no sense because I had no time to talk with somebody. So it's not, I often see no sense to going there. If you want to meet somebody, get a deeper contact, it can be good for a first contact, a first quick idea, but developing your network, I think needs a better atmosphere.
Thank you. If I'm allowed to, I could add just a couple of advices for founders, is to go vertical and to go horizontal in the beginning. In the beginning, just to go to associations, groups. And here in Germany, it's incredible how structured the industry is. So, and it's very easy to find Verbände, like also in your country of origin. So this would be my advice if I'm allowed to add something. For instance, the Bundesverband von Mittelständiges Wirtschaft, BVMW, they are doing great job and they are going also on vertical. So this is something that I will advise. So I think it's time to move. Eugenio will talk a little bit about Founder Institute now. Eugenio.
I think, Michelle, did you give your point of view on this one?
No, did I skip Michelle? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, Fernanda.
Thank you, Eugenio.
One thing that I will, one of the comments reminded me, I would say, if you are in a network of people that are just complaining to each other, get out. This is my advice. Do not waste your time with complaint groups. Yeah. You are busy now. You're a founder. You've got stuff to do. You have no time for listening to people whine. So I think that regardless of whether it's men or women, be careful of who you're spending your time with, and make sure they're people that are adding value to you, you can add value to, and they're building you up. I think this is important in a network.
What
But
else?
do
What
wine
would
and
you advise?
dine. But do
Oh, yeah,
wine
sure.
and dine
Yeah.
when Corona is done.
Sure.
What would you advise, Michelle? I mean, which network or structures? I mean, you are just building your company.
Yeah. So when I started, I went and joined like every female founder thing I could find. And which I think is an advantage that we have female founder, networks, which is great. But a lot of them were complaint sessions, and those I just got out of. And the one I can really recommend is there's one on Facebook called the Women Founders Community, largest group on Facebook, something like this. And these guys, the discussion is business oriented. We want to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. Who can help me? I've got something to offer. It's just a great, really dynamic group that I'm pretty impressed with. So, but again, I think the advice to not limit yourself to women networks is absolutely spot on. Don't create bubbles for yourself, whether it's your gender or your race or your industry or your level. Get out and mix with everybody and get that good feedback and ideas. Yeah.
Somebody else? More comments? Network structure. I'm forgetting somebody. Eugenio.
No, I guess I'm going to just, in terms of networks, there are a lot of them out there. I'm just going to briefly talk about one tool or network or service. We at the Founder Institute have and then we'll move just this one slide, and then we'll move over to the Q&A session. So the Founder Institute is it's the world's largest pre-seed accelerator. And one of the things that we do for the graduates, it's very important to have some guidance and some support and networking. So for the people who have graduated from the program, they have a possibility of networking with the other alumni. Our organization is present in 180 cities. We have over 14,000 mentors, over 4,000 alumni. And the idea here is really to help people at the early stage of their development of their company. So that's what our cohort programs, 14-week programs to help people get their startups up and running. There's lots of information on the fi.co website, so I really recommend you go and look at it. We have a female founder fellowship, and since 2009, we've had over 1,400 female-led businesses develop across basically all 6 continents. Currently, we are developing a virtual program that's going to be launched in August. And we have a female founder fellowship for the Frankfurt virtual program. If you want to participate, you need to have your application in place before the early admission deadline of the 12th of July. And if you want to see more information, go to fi.co, join FFF, Female Founder Fellowship, and select the location for Frankfurt, Germany to see our fellowship. If you're in another location, choose your location, and then you can see the fellowships that they have. That's it on my side, Fernanda. I think we can go into the Q&As. Fernanda, you're on mute.
Parte? Yeah, ich bin da. We have a lot of questions, so I think I will just, let us just move a little bit more dynamic onto who wants to answer the question, and then we move. Do you agree? Yes.
Great.
Okay, how much time in hours are you working every week, and how much percentage of the from the working hours are you investing in? Are you investing in dealing with investors and clients? Work-life balance. So I think it's like 2-3 questions in one. Who wants to answer that?
What is work? How do you, I'm serious about that. Yeah, because I'm serious about that. How do you define work? Because like the very first thing I do in the mornings and the very last thing I do at night is I check like all messaging stuff that is coming in on various channels, checking if everything is kind of fine, and if the world is still existing, or if the world needs me as a savior. And in between, I have the luxury, specifically now also with the home office thing, that if it's sunny, then I enjoy an hour with a book outside in the sun. But then if like, I don't know, there's a server failure, I might work 6 hours on the weekend. Yeah. So it's, and also like, and that is something why I actually have also founded Inga, is because like also for blue collar workers, I want them to get up in the morning and be passionate about what they do. And then it does not feel like work. Okay. So, but in the end, and everything, what I do is like also networking. If I go out meeting with friends, I'm always promoting Inga, or I'm always promoting HR as a center of excellence. So I ooze my passion for what I do 24/7. And that also includes indirectly investor talks, because everyone I meet can be a potential investor, yeah, or can be a potential client, or can be a potential employee, or a co-founder, or like a yeah. And so for me, it's like difficult to kind of differentiate. But in the end, my partner, she would say that I work way more than before. I do not take my normal holidays. When I was with my corporation, I made sure that I would take my holidays. I did my medical checkups. Like I went to every doctor out there you can imagine back in the good old days. I don't do that anymore. I used to regularly go to sports stuff like doing yoga or horseback riding. I had like my sports schedule. This is not really happening anymore. So I sometimes feel that I'm kind of exploiting myself and my body and everything, but I'm more happy than ever. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Corinna. Svenja?
Maybe I can add to this. I totally agree with Corinna. Like, if you're passionate about what you do, it's really hard to differentiate because you're curious about your emails. You know, maybe there's something new you can work on or something great that came in. I think for me, over the years, it was more important to actually, you know, differentiate yourself from the work and create boundaries and create your off time. So, you know, like before this and that time in the morning, you don't check emails, or after this time, you really have time with family, or this and that time you take to yourself. I really had to learn that because it can get a little bit overwhelming if you're, you know, so passionate about what you do. So I think that's also quite an important thing. And I just want to mention that it is definitely possible to have family and a business. That is totally possible. So if people say, you know, you need to work around the clock and weekends, blah, 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 and you can never take time off, yes, you can. It's, you know, a way of planning and making priorities, but it's definitely possible. So, yeah.
I completely agree with Svenja. It's similar to me. I'm very passionate, and with Corinna too, I'm very passionate about what I do. And if people ask me, or when people ask me, oh, you're working so much, I say, it's often not the kind of work for me I do. But on the other hand, I see that a work-life balance is important to have sometimes time off for yourself, and have sometimes time off to be busy with something completely different, because this freshes up your mind and gives you new ideas. And it's sometimes good to do a step back, to get a better view on things, get a better strategy and things like that. But it was too, for me, a learning process, that when you're so passionate about something, that there is a time where you have to say stop, because your body deserved it and you really need it. And it doesn't make sense to work then 20 hours in a row, because there comes a time where you are inefficient, and there comes a time where your body asks for that you give him a break. So it's good to take care for your body and for your soul, and of course also for your surrounding, for your friends, for your family, and take care of your network.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Clear, without a clear mind and a good health, your business will be also affected. So I agree, Anabel. Thank you for your sharing. Michelle, do you want to add something?
No,
You're fine. Okay.
Yep.
Next question. Have you done any workshops, seminars, courses to increase your entrepreneur speaking leadership skills? Who wants to answer that? Michelle?
I mean, for me, I went through FI. And for anyone thinking of leaving corporates and going into the world of entrepreneurship, whether I only know FI, but I know that there are other accelerator programs out there, I would say seriously consider them. Because for me, it crammed what is probably 2 years worth of mistake making and experience into 13 weeks, which for me was highly worth it. So again, I'm just starting the journey, but for me, that was a really positive experience, and I'm glad I did it.
Thank you. Somebody else? Anybody? Well, I have done. I will advise it, as Michelle. I mean, you have to also invest in yourself, and yes, I will advise it. Next, do you think that we need, what do you suggest to be taken more seriously? Again, what do you suggest to be taken more seriously?
I'm going to say you have to take yourself seriously. That's my answer. I have to say, I was at a couple seminars where I mentored a large amount of younger women, right? I'm older now and, than average. And I was really surprised by the amount of hesitancy I saw from women saying, do you think it's okay if I X, or should I do Y, or I'm not really sure what I should do about B, or, and in the end, when you talk to them, you find out that they really do actually know what they want to do next. They're just not like 100% or 120% sure of it. And I think that to be taken seriously, you have to have some confidence and be sure of yourself and your path. And you don't have to be right. I mean, you can be willing to be wrong, right? I'm confident, I know where I'm going. And somebody says, well, that's stupid because of this. And then you say, oh God, you're right. This is okay. That doesn't make you, that's not a mistake. That's you learning as a person. But I think, I think you have to project confidence yourself for other people to trust in you.
Yeah. I might maybe add to it, because I think that's really great what you said, Michelle. And I think what's also really important to trust is your gut feeling, or you kind of trust your own decisions. Even if it's just a feeling, but trust you're making the right decisions. And I think that's very powerful.
Thank you. Okay. So next question. What do you suggest to be taken more seriously? So, we said that already, sorry. Do you think, it's just regarding the other one, sorry. Do you think that we need to stop being less cautious? Because it's also related to the one. Should we fight against this tendency, or can we work with it anyway? Shall I repeat it?
I would like to answer out of my perspective. So I like to be the more cautious part of our founder pairing, because it's all about the balance. If I of course had like another very cautious and change averse, is that a word? Change averse? Like I don't like change person, then it might be a little bit difficult. But like at the moment, I am being kind of dragged out of my comfort zone by my co-founder, and I'm always kind of reining him back in. And so that combination, we both benefit from our characteristics. But on the other side, I have to also agree to Anabel about like the part going to networking events by yourself. That is something I tend to sometimes hide behind like a second person when I go somewhere, and I put myself way more out there if I'm by myself, and then I find my strength, because then I see the direct interaction and reaction of what I say, what I do, and so my cautiousness then goes away, because normally you always get so like feedback is mostly positive. If you are honest about, to yourself, think about, or maybe I'm lucky, I've never had a situation where I was taken advantage of, or my cautiousness was a bad thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, just put yourself out there.
Somebody else? Anabel?
Sorry, I'm here, but I'm unfortunately, I think I have to leave in a minute here. Of course, it's getting here a bit trouble around.
No worries. I thought you wanted to add something.
No,
Perhaps
thank
you. Want
you.
to...
Just if you want me to add something there, but I mean,
no, if you are leaving, perhaps last advice, some last words from your side.
I think you should be like you are. I think it's not good to try to propose to be anybody. I think it's good to stay as authentic, as Corinna said. I mean, being cautious has also a meaning on equality. I think, in addition, I think we should talk more about what we reach and what we can, and about and more be more self-aware of our qualities. I think this is something we can learn also from some of the old boys network. But I think we should I think being cautious or
Alistair? Everything fine?
Okay. But I think Corona showed us also in a way that we should be authentic. It's not the way that we always should be dressed up in a suit and shirt in front of the Zoom call. And it's okay that we have in the back something personal. And there's I think this is all okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anabel. Thank you very much. As a startup female entrepreneur, how did you get your first customer? Which strategy have it worked for you?
Me as a last answer?
No, for everybody. I mean, who wants to talk about the first customer?
Fernanda, I think I should. I have
to.
Yeah,
no worries.
Yeah.
Ciao, Anabel. Vielen Dank. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, I mean, maybe I just start answering that one. I think with all of my businesses, the first customers often have been customers being kind of recommended through your network, or people you know through someone. So you had a little bit of trust already in you, or in the connection that has been made for you. So I think for me, the first customers haven't been people that really didn't know you at all, but I think you were connected through someone that recommended you or your business or your product. So I think that was always helpful to get the first customer through recommendation, basically. Yeah.
Okay, through recommendation. Who else? Shall we?
So I would like to split that answer into my my self-employment, where I mainly advised also talents on like their next career steps, mainly corporate people thinking about moving out of that world. And that was actually about like networking, because during my years in the corporate world, I always made sure that I treat everyone with respect, and share feedback. And that is something that people remembered, apparently. So when I then put like my LinkedIn profile out there, people kind of recognized me and remembered me, and then kind of came back on the basis of the quality work that I did before. Yeah. And also like the authenticity. The other thing was my first big consultancy project was actually a recommendation by my now co-founder, who did not really know me that well back then, but knew my passion about like putting HR systems in place. And so he kind of helped me find my first job, even though we were only kind of not really acquainted. And with Inga, actually the first customer was, we did it a little bit lean startup. So we had the idea of a product. We entered into a startup contest with a big HR company called Adecco. So it was an HR tech startup pitch. And we went there, actually my two guys went there because I was in the States on holidays. And they kind of pitched the idea of Inga. And the company found it so fantastic because we actually had run a recruiting campaign just for that pitch, because we knew which investors would be in the panel, which was Tom Getränkemarkt, and we actually found a candidate on an actual job posting that they had, and we brought this person to the pitch. And after that, Adecco bought some of the bought a campaign, and then we needed to actually come up with a product.
Well, you had the product there, you had the candidate.
Yes, yeah. So we had proof of concept, to talk more in the startup lingo. So we had proof of concept, and then we needed to go into mass production and scale.
Thanks for sharing a personal example. Thank you, Corinna. If nobody else will comment, shall we move to the next one? Can you recommend any good incentives funding for female entrepreneurs in Germany, European Union, Europe, or even globally?
Incentives?
Yes, that's a question. Any good incentives funding, I guess is referring to funding, good funding.
Ah.
That's a question.
Don't understand the question, sorry.
Can you recommend any good funding for female entrepreneurs in Germany, European Union, Europe, or even globally? Funding opportunities.
I think at the moment there is hardly any funding opportunity out there anyways, even with the 2 billion startup fund that the umbrella package, or whatever you call it, that the German government has put in place, because you need, it's like the matching plan with the VCs. And for that, you need to be a startup that already is probably, I don't know, in Series A. So this is not really is not falling into place for most of like the audience, actually, I think. And I personally do not know about one single female focused fund out there.
I don't too, but there are several others from the Wirtschaftsministerium, just big innovation funds you could apply for, depending on which stage you are with your company. So I would not only look for female ones, but just really go wide, because I also don't know specific ones for female founders. Sometimes there is some for tech or for something very specific, but yeah, generally.
I think this is where the networks can help too, right? Is if you're in a network, and especially in an international network, you can find out who's getting funded. Because from what we're bootstrapped right now, so I'm not looking at funding, but I'm keeping an ear open. And for sure, for all the negativity around, funding's frozen, no one's getting funded, I am absolutely seeing companies that are saying, hey, we just got funded. So I think you need to look in your own area. If you're fintech, pay attention to that.
Yes,
Money's still moving, but is it going to move to you and your company? This is different. And for sure, I think that the atmosphere has condensed quite a bit for funding right now.
Yes.
For everybody.
And depending, I guess, how much money you need, you could also start with crowdfunding if you have a product. And I mean, depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the industry, the
Yeah.
vertical. Okay, thank you very much. How did you manage to get into this world of entrepreneurs? Michelle, how did you manage to be here?
How did I manage that? That's it, yeah. I quit my job. So in fact, because you can tell from my accent, I'm American. I never would have been able to do this in the US, what I did, because I took advantage of a restructuring at my company. So I work for a big chemicals company, Merck, here in Darmstadt, and they don't restructure very often. And when they do, they really take care of people and they offer very generous packages. And I was not a direct impact from that package, but I raised my hand and volunteered for it. And I think what that attests to is that I have wanted to be an entrepreneur for a very long time. And I kept my eyes and ears open for when the door opened and it was the right timing for me. And I loved my job, and I actually, it's a great company to work for, and I would not have left, but for this opportunity to get a package to be able to cover my expenses while I start up, which is a very, honestly, unique thing. And I'm very lucky to be able to have taken that time. So for me, it was
willingly. Is what?
For me, it was a lifetime desire to be an entrepreneur. But when you get into corporate, you get this, it's hard to leave when you have a good job and a good team and a great colleagues and a good company, and it's very sticky. So to jump, as they say, from corporate, you got to find the right time. And for me, that's how it happened for me. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, so for me, I had to become self-employed because I felt there was nothing for me to go to. So I finished my studies in 2010 in design, and I knew I don't want to be a graphic designer and I don't want to be working in the normal kind of design agencies. So I was very much looking for something else, for something different. Then I came across design thinking, kind of innovation consulting. Moved to London and just had to kind of make my money on the way. So I became a freelancer. And then once I moved back from London in 2014, I had learned so much about kind of social innovation and service design. And at that time, there was not so much going on in that area in Germany, and especially not maybe in Wiesbaden, in the Frankfurt Rhein-Main area when I came. So I didn't know where to work really. So I kind of needed to found my own workplace to do the work I wanted to do. So, and it helped me, maybe that's an advice. I mean, we were also bootstrapped in a way, but we also did freelance work on the side just to kind of, start financing ourselves until we could really fully rely on clients and projects we got through our agency. That's really helpful if you have something, to build this up with. Yeah.
So I might kind of be in the middle of that. I never wanted, or I'm in the outside and Svenja is in the middle, because I never had any entrepreneurial spirit in me. I'm from the Black Forest. I'm a worker's child, being in a company for 30 years, collecting like the pension money, security, stability. This is where I've grown up. But then it was like with the investment banking crisis and stuff happening, and actually also living in Mainz, where there is, I would not actually call it a startup scene, but it was like more an entrepreneurial scene where there like baristas and other shops happening, where I found people that were really, really passionate for what they were doing. And that was what I missed in my corporate life at the end phase. And so I was more or less kind of pushed or pulled into that self-employment, because I wanted to be a little bit more deciding about where I'm going. And with the startup, actually, it was something I wanted a solution. So I had a problem where I was always unhappy about in my corporate world, that most of my time was spent with adding information into an applicant tracking system. And that is not why I have become a recruiter. I want to talk with people. I'm a people's person, and that is what we want to bring back, like more time for the people interaction. And for that, actually, funny thing, we use technology to bring back more time. And so it was for me a need to actually invent that product which I wanted to have for 11 years in the corporation. And that is how I kind of came up with it. And one second thing was that actually I had a lot of people around me complaining about their employers. And I always have to say, first in German, wir pinsen alle auf hohem Niveau in Germany. Yeah. So Michelle, it's like we complain on a very kind of on a comfort bed in Germany. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So there is nothing to complain about in Germany, and we see that again through COVID-19, like the social network and stuff like that. And so I always had the wish to found the perfect employer, and then I had my first employees. And then I had my first invoices to pay, and I had my first kind of, I don't know, numbers to collect. Yeah, tax number, Betriebsnummern, like all the numbers. And then suddenly there was like all this business stuff going on. And then I realized, kudos to all those big companies out there, because they are doing a freaking pretty awesome job out there. So shout out to all the corporations and the small and medium-sized companies and everyone who has employees. Kudos to what you do. And I dare everyone to build your own company and make it better.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Corinna. Totally agree. We have one question, well, two questions in one question regarding coronavirus, COVID-19. Curious to hear your insights on how do you feel that this current pandemic will affect female founders in particular. So the question is, do you think this pandemic affects female founders in particular? First one. Second one, what have you done to adapt your business to the coronavirus crisis? Neutral, adverse, positive? So please. During a break, Corinna. So Svenja, please.
Sorry. Yeah, so how it's affecting female founders, well, I experienced that myself, or we experienced that. We're home for the last, 2 months now with 2 kids without kindergarten. That is super, super, super tough. So it totally affects a lot of female founders, not only, also obviously also male founders, so mothers and fathers, or caretakers of children, but that's definitely super huge. And I really hope for something to open beginning of June, so that we can work some more, because if we don't work, we actually don't make some income. So that's the thing you also have as a founder or entrepreneur. And the second thing with New Order Design, we do a lot of workshops, obviously in kind of in-person consulting in companies, and that has all been scaled back, like at least till autumn or the end of the year. So that's definitely a huge impact. What we did is what probably a lot of consultancies do. We start now, we have an academy, a New Order Design Academy, and we offer webinars. So we try just to deliver all the training consulting we do online to our clients, and try to build that. So that's a new thing we did to deal with it. But it's definitely a huge impact if you have a kind of on-person job. So yeah, that's huge. And then yeah, with Solostücke also, our production had to kind of rest because everything was closed. So we couldn't meet anyone, go anywhere, do any production, buy anything. So we're just really starting with the production today. Yeah.
Thank you, Svenja. It's challenging. Michelle, Corinna, something to
for us, I mean, we just launched, right? We just registered the company in January and launched, and this for sure has delayed us quite a bit. Our customers are small and medium-sized businesses, and many of those, especially in the US market, have been closed completely. And if they're not closed, they're focused on just surviving right now. They're not thinking about optimizing anything, right? So what that has done is just given us time to really plan more and think about things more deeply and deal with the entire effect of Corona on our own families, right? Because we have elderly parents that also create stress. You can't travel, right? We had a bunch of, I was really looking forward in March to going to Silicon Valley and Boston, which are really hotspots for our customers, and to go into some trade shows, and those are of course all canceled. So we haven't pivoted yet. You know, they talk about pivoting and just changing your, offerings to adjust to the new reality. That we haven't done completely. We're still sticking with the original vision, but that's to be determined whether that's the right decision for us and whether we still need to pivot a bit. So we're still in the process of trying to figure that out.
I can imagine. It's going to be great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle, for sharing the challenges. And last, do you want to share something, Corinna? Or
no, I thought I'm sitting that one out because of course I could keep
on,
going and
okay. No problem. We will have more questions. Do you have a co-founder or CTO? If yes, how did you meet or scout them?
Just sorry, I think I also have to leave because my baby is really crying. So I might also maybe say goodbye if that's all right and have a look. Is that all right?
Svenja, do you have last words to share?
Last words, definitely do it if you really need internally be an entrepreneur. Definitely go and do it because you need to do it. Yeah. And wishing good luck, everyone.
Thank you, Svenja.
Thank you. Bye.
So again, back to the question: do you have a co-founder or CTO? If yes, how did you meet or scout them?
Go ahead, Corinna, you go first on this one.
So funny thing, we started out with, at the very beginning, we had 5 people having the idea. Then it took like 1 month, and then we realized that only 3 of us would kind of continue. And we did not have like the real technological CTO knowledge that we would kind of all think about when we talk about CTO. So we had no programming skills within our team, and we lacked organizational skills. So we kind of then by our network and meeting people and being open to them, we found 2 more co-founders. So we actually founded with 5 co-founders. And then during the course of the first months, we realized that first of all, financing 5 co-founders is a very difficult thing because we were all like mature people, needed some kind of income, and also like the way where we wanted to go. Like if you have to take 5 decisions into consideration, like conflict is kind of on the horizon. So in the end, we kind of remained with 2. Yeah. So I have a co-founder, and I'm very happy about him, and I need him. And we have now taken back on a 3rd co-founder. We do not have a CTO yet. But of course, we have technological or development expertise that we kind of buy in from freelancers.
Thanks, Corinna.
Yeah, on my side, so when I started the company, or when I started, let's say the accelerator program with my idea for the company, I was pretty convinced that I was going to be the sole owner, and then I would just hire people or work through contractors to get the business up and running. This was my plan. And what I realized in the program from a lot of feedback, and B, a lot of recognition about the amount of work it takes to start a company, quite honestly, and the skills needed to start a company, was that this was really something I needed to completely revisit. Yeah, that trying to do it by myself was short-sighted, and there was no real benefit to me to do it by myself. I mean, what would I do? Own more of the company? But if I didn't have co-founders, the company wouldn't get as far as it needed to get. It wouldn't be as valuable as it needed to be. So it's kind of it was a moot point in the end, right? So what I did is during the development of the idea, realized that the places that I was missing skills and needed help were actually the places that my partner had in his background. And so he became my CTO/CMO for marketing. And we together, of course, we had a big discussion about, as partners, do we really want to go into business together? Because this is also another whole, you know, discussion. And there are many cautionary tales about don't do this. So we wanted to go in eyes wide open. But for us so far, we think it's the right decision, and it worked out well. So, but one thing I will say, so the business is now, what, 5 months old? It's May, right? So 5 months old. And I am recognizing already how much more I need a team. So if anybody out there on the call has supply chain or procurement or manufacturing background, is interested in working with startups, give me a call. Or if you know anybody, send them my way, because I think to be more effective, even 2 people starting a company, it's too small. You need a bigger group of brains, and they need to be diverse. And I mean, come from different angles and give you ideas and shake up your original idea and be able to challenge you. I got that during the program when I was in it, but now that I'm out, it's just me and my partner. So we need to really expand.
So do you need people, co-founders, or are you also open for freelancers and so on?
I'm open for all of it right now. I think the best idea for me is to, and this is the advice I got from other people, mentors and other successful entrepreneurs, is just talk to people and see who's out there and what they want and what they can bring to the table and where they fit. And then you figure out how to best kind of work them into the organization, right? So rather than I go out with 5 job descriptions that I need to fill, I need to, at this stage in the business, be more fluid about it and just see who's out there and what they can offer and what makes sense for both sides. I don't know, Corinna, do you have experience there? Maybe you can comment on this, yeah?
This is actually something that I've seen during my time advising startups on how to recruit, because I always, like, coming from a corporate where recruiting was very well structured, I was kind of naive and thought, okay, also a startup looking for employee number 1 needs to exactly know what they want and do a real selection process and stuff like that. And then over the course of the years, I realized that, let's say, the first 5 to 10 employees will be opportunity hires. You will meet them, they will be recommended, they will change their roles and tasks over the time. And with time, I mean months, maybe sometimes weeks. And so there is no one job profile or no specific job profile that you are looking for. It's more about personality, potential, chemistry, and of course also skills. But you need someone with a very like a good mixture between specialists and generalists. Yeah. So and only, let's say, like, if you want to put a number on it, with employee number 11, you should have kind of reached a level of productivity and professionalism that you then actually can think about where is it the gap. What skills do I need, and then have a clear vision on the person and the skills that you need, and then you do your normal recruiting.
Thank you. So we move to the next question. Would you say female founded businesses could easier create sociocratic, holocratic workplaces, self-organized workplaces, where everybody is specialized on something and very responsible for the area, but at the same time working as one? Do you want that? Do you think it's moving into that direction? Corinna?
I was looking at Michelle. If she could
Michelle?
I'm thinking about that one. I mean, okay, so let's unpack that, as they say. So the first part was, do I think female founders will be more likely to do something like that?
Female founded businesses.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, I guess. I don't know. In my experience, although women and men lead differently, I have not seen, in my experience anyway, a huge difference in how they structure their teams and organizations. I've seen men do really fluid, very casual, informal structures, and I've seen women do very formal, top-down, lead with a stick structures. So for me, I don't see the gender influence on that part of it. I don't know, Corinna, do you have maybe?
I agree with you that there is no real stereotype in terms of leadership, I think, in that based on gender. The question is, like the second part of the question was holacratic or sociocratic workplaces, would we want them? And that is, I think, should be the first question. Do they work? Does it actually kind of work out? And for that, I do not know enough about that, how the models could be, because we, of course, at Inga, we try to include everyone, and with let's say 12 people in a Zoom call or in a meeting room back in the good old day, you could actually still be quick enough to take everyone's viewpoint into consideration, for example. So it normally is not a top-down decision making, but more like a what does everyone think and mean. And I think it's more about like the size of the company, because I do not know of one really large successful company that is being run on that kind of Ansatz, approach. Of things. So yeah, so I would need more examples about it.
I will say that I do think the change in workplace structure is going to come from startups, though. That I will say, right? And I think, you know, all the experimentation, especially, you know, the generations are so comfortable with technology and mobile technology. People are doing stuff on phones now that, you know, I personally wouldn't. I'm very comfortable with technology. I'm an electrical engineer. I'm willing to experiment, but I'm not even going to do that stuff. And yet generations that are getting hired now just assume that's the normal. So I think that the younger generation is much more dynamic. I think it's easier to start a business now than ever before. And so I think you see a lot more interest in entrepreneurship, and those people want to experiment and do things differently. So I think all the changes in experimentation and stuff will come from entrepreneurs, men and women. Yeah, I think that's what's exciting for the future for me. I think it's going to be fun to watch and see how things change.
Can I just kind of add to that, because like the definition of a startup is always a little bit difficult for me. Because for example, like Hewlett and Packard or Microsoft or Apple, they used to be a startup as well.
Yeah. And
they have transformed the way we work, think, and live for generations. And that is something that we often forget, that like those, also like of course Google, Amazon, like the big players that are dominating like the business world out there now, we sometimes forget that they also started out as small startups with like one niche product. I don't know if people in the webinar remember that Amazon used to sell only books. Books, guys. Paper books, they sent them to you, right? And that was like the start. And now they are like this, yeah. And I think they probably make more money in the end with their server technology. I don't know, but many people don't know that they are like one of the largest providers of server space out there. so yeah, let's see where our startups and the startups of the people in the audience actually will lead humankind.
But I will say, I think one thing that's going to change from female leaders is family-friendly companies. I think that's going to get pushed more from women founders quite often. I mean, you saw in this call, right? It was very natural for us to respond to these mothers with small kids. No problem. She's crying. Let her cry. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're not bothered by it, right? And
Totally
I think
agree.
you're going to see a lot of women-owned businesses being very open and flexible to dealing with kids, bringing in kids, working with kids as much as is allowed by that country's law, right? And what they can get away with. So I think that's going to get driven more from women founders, honestly, than from male founders. I think just because the needs are so much more dramatic for women as mothers.
Totally agree. So we have 3 more questions. The first of the 3 last. What is your KPI in your business? Perhaps you can mention it actually. KPIs, come.
For me, I mean, I'm still figuring out my product, and for me, it's really talking to customers and getting leads, getting qualified leads, and connecting with people. So my basic KPI right now is how many small, medium-sized businesses am I talking to and having discussions with about what they need. That's my KPI right now.
Great, great. Corinna?
Well, of course, we have various ones, and I might not call that a KPI, but in the end, break even is like the goal for 2020. And then there was COVID-19 and kind of put a little hold on the whole recruiting approach out there. And the other thing is that even before Corona, we started several sales sprints, like 6 weeks, very focused kind of sales approaches with via various channels, and there, of course, like conversion rate. Yeah, how many people kind of have we contacted, and how many actual sales revenue have we gotten out of that? That is like the most important at the moment, because yeah, we need liquidity.
Thank you. Well, this one was for Anabel, but anyway, I will just place it. So how does Anabel or other angel investors feel about the market right now? Will you start talking to new companies or follow up on old contacts in these times of crisis? If the question is not answered also from Michelle and Corinna, I will encourage the audience to contact Anabel also. The one answer. So
was it you, Michelle, who actually said that you've seen some investments being closed?
Yes,
now?
but hard to tell how long these have been worked on, right? It could be 2 years of meeting with these VCs and they finally signed last week. So I don't know any personally, let's say, just through the network I've seen some. Yeah.
Because like the ones that I know about, they started quite early, or quite a long time ago, and they were still able to kind of finish it, but it took them longer because of course, like then the investors were a little bit more cautious. And that is just a gut feeling. I don't have numbers about that, but I think that at the moment, the majority also of the business angels are more cautious about investments, because there is, I think the only startup that I would have invested in at this moment was like a mask producing startup. And now, for example, I thought, wow, if I had like 1 million of those FFP2 masks, then I would be like super rich now. But on the other side, there is always also then a new turn of events where they say that those FFP2 masks are not really good. So your handmade ones are even better. And so you actually never know. And I think this kind of uncertainty leads to investors to be a little bit more cautious on the one hand side, but I can imagine that some really kind of adventurous ones might be able to get a super good deal now, because startups need liquidity. and often it's not so easy to get it from banks or from like other means. And so some startups might be at the like with their backs to the walls, and might accept kind of not so good deals. But yeah, out there, please remember there are also kind of there are convertible loans, so you could also kind of get money through that kind of financial vehicle, where you get a loan and then it can be converted into actual Untitled shares later on with a bigger round.
Thanks for the tip. Last question. What if any of you won $1 million? Would you quit and just travel around the world or be a couch potato?
You know, I thought about this. This is a really good question. Because when I left corporate, I had the option to not start a new business. And I thought, what would I do if I just retired, right? Not that my package was good enough to like retire on really, but I thought, you know, maybe I could, you know, reduce my spending enough and get a part-time job at a supermarket or something and just do something a little bit. And the truth is, I would be bored stiff just traveling. I am the kind of person, I need a project. I have wanted to run a business since I was 8 years old. And I can't not do this. So for me, if I really won $1 million or 5 million in the lottery, it would all go to Suplito. And then I wouldn't need to get funded and I could just bootstrap it all myself and give the equity to my employees, and we would run the company like that.
Yeah,
right.
I like that answer. Actually, if you have a look at your financials with $1 million or euros, you will not survive a very long. Yeah, you will not survive a long time. So you actually need big money. So I was focused on the 90 million, like over the last few months or weeks in the Euro jackpot. Yeah, because with 90 million euros, I already had my financial plan. Yeah, so part of it, of course, would be spent within Inga, with the current product, which is more agency driven. It's more handmade. There's a lot of HR quality in there, so it's not really that well scalable if we want to keep that kind of quality. On the other side, we have a big vision about like inventing, let's say, the HR Alexa / Siri, like the full stack HR tool for smart teams out there. And for that, I need a lot of money because I need a CTO for that and the whole team. Then, of course, I would spend a lot of money on my family and friends who are not wealthy at all. So to kind of give them a little bit of a cushion. And then I might travel a little bit, like post Corona, but travel a little bit and try to have less sleepless nights about the financial situation of my company, and if I will be able to pay my 11 employees the next month, because that is something where you need to kind of, that is the responsibility that you as a founder and as a CEO have and develop for your employees. That is something that I had misjudged. I had not thought that I would feel so responsible for my team, and for that, money would help.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think we are done. We have a last question in our agenda, so I will close with this one. What is your one piece of parting advice for early stage female founders? Something maybe you want to share from your experience, a mistake, or any personal journey that you want to share.
Corinna?
Yes, I would go back to one of my earlier advices, networking and reaching out. And people, you now see me in action. Michelle, you are going in supply chain. You might have the clients that Inga is perfect for if they need people in like the logistics industry, like I don't know, putting stuff in, everything in logistics or anything in supply chain. If you have any clients that struggle finding their workers, think of Inga and call me. And when I have a client that we kind of approach or work with, and they need a bigger supply chain product around it and not just the recruiting, then I will talk to you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and my advice to early stage founders would be trust your gut and go. And don't question yourself. And it's amazing the doors that open. When you really start and start reaching out to people like Corinna now and I are connected, and people want to help. It's men and women equally. I will really say that. It's not the gender, it's not just women, right? It's really, people want to help each other. And it's really rewarding to be part of that.
It's true. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having
us.
us.
Fantastic. It was fantastic. Very, very nice people. I've learned a lot. I wrote down some of the things. And, I'm actually already applied for the female founders community. Yeah. And I have to say, it's actually really called the largest female founders network on Facebook. And actually putting that out there as a claim that boldly has probably made them the biggest group out there. Yeah, they might not. Yeah, and so just put it out there, guys. Yeah, you're great. You're awesome. Just trust in yourself.
Being generous.
And thanks everyone for participating. And if you have any questions or want to apply for free to the web, you can have a link to join the FI program from the webinar, where you can look at and learn more about the program. Thanks again for all the participants and the panelists.